"Please do look," she murmured, but when the human did, his heart broke. The cold wind of the alien world cut through the thin fabric of the explorer's suits. Commander Elias Rowan adjusted the collar of his suit and scanned the horizon. The landscape stretched endlessly, painted in strange purples and muted oranges, with jagged cliffs and twisted rock formations rising like ancient monuments. The air had a strange metallic tang, almost alive with electricity, and every step they took stirred dust that shimmered in the weak sunlight. It was beautiful but dangerous. Elias knew that at any moment, the quiet could be shattered by hidden predators or remnants of the old war that had scarred this planet. The human team had been sent to survey this world, rumored to harbor life forms that could be friendly or hostile. So far, they had found ruins of what seemed like a long-lost civilization, structures half buried in sand, marked with symbols no human eye could read. Elias had always been fascinated by the unknown, but fascination could not hide the anxiety that tugged at his chest. Every rustle of the alien grass, every shadow shifting unnaturally across the ground made him tense. As the team pressed forward, Elias noticed a movement near a crumbling cliff edge. At first, he thought it was a trick of the wind, but then he saw her. She crouched low among the rocks, her body wrapped in a thin, tattered covering that did little to hide the shape beneath. She was small, almost fragile, and her head was lowered. Elias felt a strange pull in his chest, a mix of curiosity and concern. He signaled the team to stop, holding up a hand. "Do not approach too quickly," he whispered, his voice low in the comms. "We don't know what she is." The team paused, unsure, but Elias stepped forward cautiously. The woman, or alien, he reminded himself, did not move. Her hair, or what seemed like hair, shimmered faintly in the light, almost like silver threads. Something about her presence was unsettling and compelling at the same time. She seemed human in shape, yet something about her felt profoundly different. Elias lowered his hand slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "I'm Commander Rowan," he said softly. "We come in peace. Are you hurt?" For a moment there was no response. Then she lifted her head slightly, enough for him to see her eyes. They were large, impossibly dark, and filled with a pain that made Elias' stomach twist. She whispered a single phrase, so soft he almost did not hear it. "Please don't look." Her words froze him. It was not just a request. It carried a weight of warning, a plea born of fear and shame. But he could not stop himself. He stepped a little closer, his eyes locked on hers, searching for understanding. "I have to help you," he said, his voice steady, though his heart pounded. "You can't stay out here alone. We will not hurt you." The alien's lips trembled, and she shook her head faintly. Her fingers clutched at the thin covering around her, as if it were a shield against the world. Elias took a careful breath, remembering everything he had learned in the academy about approaching unknown species. Slow movements, calm voice, patience. Yet something about her vulnerability made patience difficult. Finally, she hesitated, then nodded minutely. It was a small gesture, almost invisible, but it was enough. Elias reached out slowly, keeping his movements deliberate. She flinched but did not pull away. Carefully, he helped her to rise, supporting her weight so she would not stumble. Her skin was cool, almost cold, but beneath it, there was a faint pulse of warmth that reassured him. As they moved toward the team's temporary shelter, Elias kept glancing at her, noticing every detail he could without staring too blatantly. Her features were delicate, almost fragile, and her body bore marks of suffering. Bruises, scars, and what looked like burns marred her skin. Elias' chest tightened. Whoever she was, she had endured pain far beyond what most humans could imagine. Once inside the makeshift shelter, Elias helped her sit on a padded bench. He activated the medical scanner, which hummed softly as it assessed her condition. "You are wounded," he said gently. "Some of these injuries are old, but there are fresh ones too. We can treat them." She nodded silently, still avoiding his gaze. Her body tensed when he approached with the medical kit, and Elias realized that trust had to be earned, not demanded. He spoke softly as he worked, describing every movement. "I am cleaning the wounds. It will sting a little. Please try to stay still." She flinched at first, but gradually allowed him to tend to her injuries. Each movement was careful, precise, respectful. He noticed the faint shimmer along her arms, almost like a bioluminescent pattern hidden beneath her skin. It pulsed subtly with each heartbeat, and Elias' curiosity was piqued. "Your skin, it's unlike anything I've ever seen," he said cautiously. "It's beautiful in a way I can't describe." She looked up, her dark eyes reflecting a flicker of surprise. For the first time, she spoke a little louder. "You mustn't," she said, her voice trembled. "You will only see pain, you will see what humans cannot understand." Elias shook his head gently. "I understand more than you think. I've seen suffering too. And I know what it is to feel broken." The words seemed to reach her. She allowed him to continue, and Elias worked with care, cleaning and dressing each wound, speaking quietly all the while, telling her stories of his own life, of Earth, of humanity's struggles and triumphs. He saw her tense gradually ease, her body relaxing slightly as trust grew between them. Hours passed. The alien woman, Kayla, finally lowered the covering slightly, revealing more of her form. Her body was different from humans, yes, marked with scars and subtle differences, but the pain in her eyes mirrored what any human could feel. Elias felt a pang in his chest. He had not expected to feel such empathy so strongly, but it was impossible to ignore. As night fell, the alien sky glittered with stars unlike any he had seen. Multiple moons cast faint light over the barren cliffs and twisted rocks. Elias and Kayla sat in the shelter, the warmth of the small artificial heater contrasting with the chill outside. "I should not have trusted you," she whispered finally, her voice almost a sigh. "I tell no one to look, and yet you did." Elias met her gaze, steady but soft. "I did, and I see you, not just your scars, not just your form, I see you who you are inside. You are stronger than you know." For a long moment, they sat in silence, only the hum of the equipment filling the room. Elias thought about the world outside, the dangers that lurked in every shadow, the history of destruction that had left Kayla's people in pain. Yet here, in this fragile moment, trust and understanding were possible. He realized that humanity's strength was not just in weapons or technology, but in empathy, courage, and the ability to see beyond appearances. Kayla finally allowed a faint smile, almost imperceptible but enough to make Elias' heart lift. It was fragile, like the first bloom of a flower in a harsh winter, yet full of promise. "I do not know if you will survive here," she said softly. "This planet is unforgiving, and humans can be cruel." Elias nodded. "I know, but I will do everything I can to protect you. You are not alone anymore." Her eyes glimmered, and for the first time she seemed to truly look at him, not just at his face, but at the honesty and resolve in his eyes. In that look, Elias felt the weight of responsibility and the spark of connection. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, that danger was waiting beyond every ridge and shadow. But he also knew that this moment, this fragile trust, was the first step toward something greater. Outside, the wind howled against the shelter, carrying the scent of alien flora and the whisper of unseen creatures. Inside, Elias and Kayla remained, two beings from different worlds, bound by a fragile thread of understanding. The night stretched on, long and silent, yet filled with unspoken promise. Elias did not know what lay ahead. He did not know if Kayla's people would survive the coming storms, or if his team would make it through the dangers that awaited them. But he did know one thing. He had looked, and in that look he had seen truth. And sometimes, truth, even when it breaks your heart, is the only thing that can make you stronger. As the stars wheeled overhead, Elias Rowan sat beside Kayla, silent and vigilant, ready to face whatever this alien world had in store. For the first time, he understood that compassion, courage, and the willingness to see the truth were as important as any weapon or strategy. Humanity's strength, he realized, was in its heart. And tonight, that heart was beating alongside hers, fragile but unbroken. The sun rose slowly over the jagged horizon, spilling pale light across the alien landscape. Elias Rowan woke before the rest of his team, the quiet hum of the shelter surrounding him like a protective blanket. Kayla was already awake, sitting by the edge of the platform, staring out at the barren cliffs. She did not move when he approached, as if she were watching some distant memory only she could see. Elias paused, observing her carefully. There was a strength in her stillness, a resilience that had survived more than anyone he had ever known. And yet beneath it, he could sense the shadows of pain that clung to her like invisible chains. He knelt beside her quietly, not wanting to disturb her thoughts. "You didn't sleep much," he said softly. Kayla did not look at him. "I do not need much sleep," she replied. Her voice was calm, measured, but there was a quiet tension in it. "Time does not wait for the weak. Only the strong survive here." Elias studied her, noting the faint scars along her arms, the uneven lines along her neck. Each mark told a story, a history of suffering and endurance. "You are stronger than you realize," he said gently, "but even the strong need rest and help." She finally turned to him, her eyes dark pools filled with emotions he could not name. "Help," she said, almost as if tasting the word. "I have learned not to trust it. Humans, they have caused much of the pain my people endured. I should hide, I should run, but you do not seem like the others." Elias nodded slowly. "I know, humanity is flawed, yes. We have made mistakes, caused wars, destroyed worlds, but we also can choose differently. I choose to help you and your people because it is right, not for gain, not for power." Kayla studied him, her expression unreadable. Then she finally spoke in a whisper. "I will tell you part of my story, but you must promise you will not look at the pain at what has been done. You must see only what remains of hope." Elias' heart tightened, but he nodded. "I promise." Kayla took a deep breath, the faint shimmer of light along her arms pulsing softly. She began to speak, her voice fragile but steady. "My people, we were once many. We thrived on this world before the wars came. Humans arrived long ago, not like you, but others. They sought resources, expansion, knowledge. They did not understand the balance of life here. They destroyed what they could not control. Cities fell, forests burned, rivers poisoned. We fought to protect our world, but our strength was no match for their technology. Those who survived were scarred, changed, broken, and I bear those scars." Elias listened quietly, the weight of her words pressing on him. He had known humans could be destructive, that wars could leave wounds far beyond the battlefield. But hearing it from someone who had lived through it, it made the destruction tangible, human and alien all at once. "I asked you not to look," Kayla continued, "because if you see what has been done, it may break you. Humans, they cannot understand fully. You see, the wounds are not just on my body, they are in the soul. Each scar carries the memory of those we lost, of battles we could not win, of trust shattered." Elias reached out, placing a hand lightly on hers. "I do not fear what I see you, Kayla. Not just the scars, not just the history. I see the courage it took to survive, to keep moving forward despite it all. That is more powerful than any weapon." Kayla blinked, and for a moment the tension around her seemed to ease. She allowed herself to lean slightly toward him, though she remained guarded. "Few have said such words to me. Many, they only looked and recoiled. You see differently." Elias smiled faintly. "Seeing is not just about the body, Kayla. It is about understanding. About empathy, and humanity can rise not through dominance but through compassion. That is how we survive as more than animals. That is our strength." Kayla stayed silent, but her eyes softened, and for the first time Elias thought he saw a flicker of trust. The morning passed slowly. Elias helped her eat, showing her the small rations they had brought. Kayla watched him with quiet fascination as he demonstrated how to mix the nutrient paste into a consumable form. She did not speak much, but the subtle nods and gestures showed her willingness to engage. After eating, Elias suggested a walk outside the shelter. Kayla hesitated, her gaze flicking toward the barren cliffs, the shadowed ridges beyond. But finally she agreed, and together they stepped out into the alien sunlight. The wind was sharp, carrying the scent of strange minerals and plants that glimmered faintly with their own light. Elias led her carefully, pointing out safe paths, scanning for danger. She moved with a cautious grace, her eyes always alert, yet she matched his pace without complaint. As they walked, Elias asked gently, "Tell me about your world, Kayla, what it was like before the wars." She paused, her gaze lifting to the distant horizon. "It was alive. Every river, every tree, every creature was connected. We built cities in harmony with the land, not over it. Music, art, knowledge, our civilization valued life above all else. And then humans came. We fought, we tried to resist, but we were unprepared. And those who survived were left to hide, to endure, to change." Elias felt the weight of her words like a stone in his chest. "I cannot undo the past," he said softly, "but I can help you in the present, and I can promise to make sure it is remembered so it is not repeated." Kayla looked at him then, her eyes wide and dark, almost luminous in the sunlight. "Your words, they are human words. I hear them, and yet I do not trust them fully. Trust, it is dangerous. And yet I feel something, perhaps hope." The moment was fragile, and Elias understood that. Hope could be fleeting, easily shattered by the harsh realities of their world. But he also knew that hope was necessary. It was what kept humans alive through wars, what kept civilizations moving forward. And perhaps it could help Kayla and her people as well. Their conversation was interrupted by a distant rumble. Elias stiffened, listening carefully. The ground vibrated faintly under their feet, and a low, almost mournful sound echoed across the cliffs. Kayla tensed beside him, her body coiled, ready to flee. "What is it?" Elias asked quietly. "Predators," Kayla replied, her voice tight. "Or machines, remnants of war, we must move." They quickened their pace, Elias scanning for danger. Soon the source became clear. A pack of alien creatures, large and swift, with elongated limbs and glimmering eyes, was moving through the rocky terrain. They were hunting, or perhaps curious, and their presence was a clear threat. Elias stepped in front of Kayla, raising his arm. "Stay close, do not panic." The creatures circled, studying them, their movements deliberate and unnervingly intelligent. Kayla's skin pulsed faintly, a subtle glow that indicated her own power, her potential to defend herself. But Elias did not rely on that. He had trained for encounters like this, and he was determined to protect her without provoking unnecessary aggression. With careful movements, he led her along a safer path, using the terrain to their advantage. Rocks, ridges, and cliffs became shields, hiding them from the creature's keen eyes. Kayla followed silently, her trust in him growing with each step. After what felt like hours, they reached a narrow canyon where the creatures could not follow. Elias allowed himself a brief exhale of relief. Kayla looked at him then, her eyes reflecting both fear and gratitude. "You saved me," she said softly. "No," Elias replied. "We saved each other, you trusted me and I trusted you, that is what matters." For the first time, Kayla allowed herself a small, genuine smile. Elias felt a warmth in his chest, a recognition that bonds could form even in the most dangerous and alien places. As night fell, they returned to the shelter. Elias set up the perimeter defenses while Kayla rested, the faint glow of her body casting soft light across the room. She spoke little, but the presence of silence between them was not empty. It was shared, comfortable, and significant. Elias reflected on the day's events. Kayla had survived not just because of her own strength, but because of trust, because someone had seen her as more than her scars. And he realized that humanity's true strength lay in such moments. The courage to care, the ability to act with empathy, and the willingness to see truth, even when it was painful. Kayla stirred slightly, opening her eyes. "Tomorrow you will see more," she whispered. "The truth is not kind, even now, but you must see it if we are to survive." Elias nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He had already glimpsed the beginning of her story, and he knew there was much more to come, but he would not turn away. He would face the pain with her, and he would rise to meet the challenges ahead. As the stars appeared in the alien sky, Elias sat quietly beside Kayla, keeping watch. The world outside was dangerous, unpredictable, and often cruel. But inside there was trust, understanding, and the fragile first glimmer of hope. And for now, that was enough to keep them moving forward. The morning light spilled into the shelter once more, soft and golden, but it carried with it a tension that Elias could feel deep in his chest. Kayla was awake, already moving quietly about, tending to the small supplies they had salvaged. Her movements were deliberate, precise, and even in the early light, he could see the faint glow that pulsed beneath her skin. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it reminded him constantly that she was not just fragile, she was extraordinary. Elias approached slowly, careful not to startle her. "We need to explore the nearby ridge today," he said. "It might give us a better view of this area and any dangers that might be coming our way." Kayla nodded without speaking, her dark eyes fixed on him for a brief moment before she turned back to her preparations. Elias noticed the tension in her shoulders, the way her fingers lingered on the equipment, as if every small action was measured against a possible threat. He understood. She had learned long ago that every movement could matter in survival. As they stepped outside, the wind greeted them sharply, stirring the alien grass and rustling the loose rocks beneath their boots. The terrain ahead was jagged, a network of ridges that rose and fell like frozen waves. Beyond them lay the remnants of what seemed to be an old city, its towers crumbling, half buried in sand. Elias could see the faint outlines of structures, some of which had survived centuries, while others were broken and hollowed by time and war. Kayla walked beside him, keeping close yet slightly behind. Elias noticed her gaze scanning the horizon constantly, every flicker of movement or change in shadow catching her attention. He realized that she had been trained, or perhaps conditioned, by years of survival to read the world in a way humans rarely did. There was a sharp intelligence in her observation, a mind that never rested even when the body seemed still. Kayla, Elias said quietly, I want to know more about your people, not just what happened, but who they are, what they value, what made them strong before the wars. She hesitated, her hand brushing a ridge of rock as if seeking stability. It is difficult, she admitted. Many of the stories are painful, many are of loss, but perhaps you can understand. Humans understand loss, yes. You have history, wars, mistakes, suffering. Perhaps you can comprehend what we endured. Elias nodded. I will listen, I will try to understand. Nothing you tell me will change my resolve to help. Kayla's lips pressed into a thin line. She began slowly, her voice steady but measured, as though she were weighing every word. Our civilization valued balance. Every life mattered. Every decision considered the future. Our cities were built to exist with nature, not above it. We cultivated knowledge, art, and science, but never at the cost of life itself. And then humans came, not like you, but others. They sought power and control, and they did not see us as equals. They destroyed much of what we had built. Those who survived were forced to change, to hide, to endure. I was young when it happened, yet I saw more death than most witness in a lifetime, and even now the memories remain. Elias felt a pang in his chest. The words were heavy, filled with grief and loss. I am sorry, he said softly. No one should have to endure that, and yet you survived, you are here, that is proof of your strength. Kayla's gaze fell to the ground. Strength is not just survival, she said quietly. It is endurance. It is the ability to keep moving forward when every step is heavy with grief. It is choosing to care when the world tells you not to. Humans, you understand that. I see it in you. Elias swallowed, feeling a mix of admiration and sorrow. Yes, he admitted. I understand, and I hope that by standing with you I can help carry some of that weight. They continued along the ridge, the landscape stretching endlessly beneath them. Elias noticed faint trails of movement in the sand, small creatures, tracks of predators, evidence that they were not alone. Kayla's senses seemed sharper than his, detecting subtle vibrations in the ground, shifts in the wind, and faint echoes of sounds he could not hear. She moved with confidence, yet Elias could tell she was always assessing, always ready. As they rounded a bend, they came upon a clearing, a plateau overlooking the remains of the old city. The view was both beautiful and haunting. Broken towers jutted into the sky like skeletal fingers, and the ruins were half swallowed by sand. It was a graveyard of a civilization that had once thrived, now quiet except for the wind. Kayla knelt, placing her hand lightly on a piece of rubble. This was a school, she said softly. Children learned here, they sang, they played, they dreamed, and now nothing remains. Elias felt a sharp ache. It is hard to imagine such loss, he said. But their memory can live on in us in the way we treat others, in the choices we make. Kayla looked at him, and for the first time her glowing skin pulsed more visibly, a faint rhythm that matched the subtle strength in her words. Perhaps, yes. That is why you must continue to see, even when it hurts. Do not turn away. Suddenly, a rustling in the sand caught their attention. Elias stepped forward cautiously, scanning the area. A small group of creatures emerged, not as large as the predators they had encountered before, but intelligent, alert, and wary. They paused when they saw Kayla and Elias, tilting their heads as if studying the two humans carefully. Kayla's eyes narrowed. Do not provoke them, she warned. Some are curious, some dangerous. Approach with respect. Elias lowered his hands, taking careful steps forward. The creatures hesitated, then approached, sniffing the air. Kayla's presence seemed to calm them, the glow beneath her skin pulsing in a steady rhythm. Elias observed silently, realizing that her connection to these beings was more than instinct. It was a bond built over years of survival and understanding. One of the creatures approached Elias cautiously, its large eyes reflecting intelligence and curiosity. He knelt slowly, allowing it to come closer. It sniffed his outstretched hand, then retreated, but without aggression. Kayla smiled faintly, a rare expression that illuminated her features. You see, she said quietly, even in a world scarred by war, life finds a way to connect. Even those who survive are not alone if they understand each other. Elias nodded, deeply moved. Yes. And that is something humanity must learn too. They stayed on the plateau for some time, observing the city and the creatures below. Kayla spoke little, but her presence was commanding, comforting, and steady. Elias realized that this was her strength, not her body, not her scars, but the ability to inspire trust, respect, and cooperation in a world that had forgotten both. As they prepared to descend the ridge, Kayla stopped suddenly. There is something you must see, she said. A remnant of the war, something left to remind us of the past and to warn us of the future. Elias followed her cautiously, the terrain steepening as they approached a ruined tower at the edge of the plateau. Inside, they found remnants of human technology, broken machines, scorched walls, and fragments of communication devices. Kayla walked slowly among the wreckage, her fingers brushing lightly over the metal, tracing patterns he could not understand. "This was a control center," she said softly. "It directed attacks, monitored our cities, many died because of what was planned here, and yet it is empty now, only echoes remain." Elias felt the weight of history pressing on him. "It is hard to see this and not feel anger," he admitted. Kayla shook her head. "Anger is wasted if it does not lead to action. We must learn, we must survive, and we must remember. That is the lesson. That is why you must see, even when it is painful." They spent hours exploring the tower carefully. Elias documented everything he could, knowing that these remnants were a testament to the resilience of both humans and Kayla's people. He realized that their survival depended not only on strength, but on wisdom, patience, and understanding. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the ruins in deep shadows, Elias and Kayla made their way back to the shelter. Elias carried a small fragment of a device, something he thought might provide insight into the past, while Kayla moved silently beside him, her body glowing softly in the twilight. Once inside, Elias set the fragment on a table and examined it. "This is incredible," he said. "It holds information about the war, about your people, and the humans who came before us. We can learn from this, Kayla. We can ensure it is never repeated." Kayla nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Yes, but it will take time and trust. Humans must see the value of life as we do, and you have shown me that it is possible. That is why I allowed you to see, to learn, to walk this path with me." Elias smiled faintly, feeling the warmth of connection growing between them. He understood now that Kayla's true power was not in her body, her glow, or even her survival. It was in her ability to see, to understand, and to guide. And humanity, he realized, could rise not only through strength, but through the willingness to learn from others, to respect life, and to act with courage and compassion. That night, as the stars glittered across the alien sky, Elias kept watch while Kayla rested. He thought about the day's discoveries, the creatures they had encountered, and the ruins they had explored. Each moment had been a lesson, a reminder that the universe was vast, dangerous, and often cruel, but also filled with hope, connection, and the chance to rise above despair. Kayla stirred slightly, opening her eyes. "Tomorrow," she said softly, her voice a whisper in the dim light, "you will see more. Not just the past, but the choices we must make for the future. And you must be ready to act, to decide, to carry the weight of what it means to truly understand." Elias nodded, his heart steady. He had glimpsed the beginning of her world, the strength of her people, and the lessons hidden in pain and survival. And he knew, without a doubt, that he would face whatever came next with courage, compassion, and the resolve to see truth, even when it broke his heart. For in seeing, truly seeing, lay the path forward, not just for humans, but for all who survived. The next morning, the air felt heavier, charged with a tension that Elias could sense deep in his bones. The wind carried an unfamiliar scent, metallic and sharp, and the horizon seemed darker than usual, as though the sky itself anticipated danger. Elias tightened his grip on his equipment, scanning the rocky landscape. Kayla stood beside him, calm and poised, yet her glowing skin pulsed subtly, signaling alertness and caution. Elias glanced at her. "Something's coming," he said softly. Kayla nodded. "Not creatures this time," she replied. "Humans, others like you, but they do not care for life. They come for control, for profit, for power. They hunt my people." Elias felt a surge of protectiveness. "Then we stop them. No one touches you or your people while I am here." She studied him for a long moment, her dark eyes reflecting both gratitude and concern. "You will see much that day. The truth is not gentle, but you must face it. That is the only way to survive." They moved carefully along the ridge, making their way toward a cluster of ruins Kayla had indicated as a safe point. The path was treacherous, strewn with jagged rocks and loose gravel, but Elias trusted Kayla's knowledge. She led him with quiet authority, every step measured, every glance alert. As they approached the safe zone, a sudden sound made Elias freeze. A low hum, mechanical and deliberate, echoed across the rocks. Kayla's eyes narrowed. "They are close," she said. "Prepare yourself." From the shadows emerged a group of humans, armed and aggressive. Their suits bore markings Elias did not recognize, and their movements were coordinated, practiced, and ruthless. They carried scanning devices and weapons, clearly hunting for Kayla and anyone allied with her. Elias' heart pounded, but he forced himself to remain calm. "Stay behind me," he whispered to Kayla. The humans spotted them and advanced immediately, their voices sharp and demanding. "We know she's here. Step aside or face consequences," one of them shouted. Kayla stepped forward, her glowing skin brightening subtly, a warning signal to Elias and to the intruders. Elias held up his hands. "We do not want conflict," he called out. "Leave now and no one will be harmed." The humans laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the cliffs. "We do not negotiate," another replied. "She belongs to us, hand her over or you will regret it." Elias tightened his grip on his weapon. "I will not let you take her," he said firmly. "She is not yours to claim." The standoff was tense, the air thick with anticipation. Then one of the humans lunged forward, activating a scanning device. Elias reacted instinctively, moving to block Kayla and push the intruder back. Kayla's glow intensified, a faint aura emanating from her that seemed to distort the air around them. The humans faltered slightly, sensing the power in her presence. "Move!" Elias shouted, grabbing Kayla's arm. Together they sprinted toward a narrow passage between two ridges. The humans pursued, their shouts echoing behind them. Elias' mind raced as he calculated every step, every possible obstacle. Kayla moved with speed and grace, her senses guiding them away from danger. As they reached the edge of a cliff, Kayla stopped abruptly. "Here," she said. "We can hide, but we must act quickly." Elias followed her lead, finding a narrow crevice partially hidden by rocks and shadows. They slipped inside, crouching in the small space. From their vantage point, they could see the humans searching below, their movements frustrated by the rocky terrain and Kayla's knowledge of the landscape. Elias' heart raced, but he forced himself to breathe steadily. "You knew they were coming," he said quietly. "How long have they been tracking you?" Kayla's voice was calm but tinged with sorrow. "For weeks. They have followed remnants of my people, studying patterns, learning weaknesses. That is why I told you to be careful. Humans, some do not value life beyond their goals." Elias nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "Then we have to move fast. We can't stay here forever." Kayla's eyes flicked to him, assessing his determination. "You are brave," she said softly. "Most would have faltered, but bravery is not enough. You must act wisely. We will not win by force alone." Together, they waited until the humans' movement slowed, then slipped silently from the crevice, using the shadows and terrain to their advantage. Elias was amazed at Kayla's ability to navigate the cliffs, moving with precision and awareness that surpassed his own training. Every step was a lesson, every choice a calculation of risk and survival. As they reached a more secure area, Kayla paused. "We need a plan," she said. "They will not give up easily. We must protect my people and we must survive." Elias nodded. "Agreed. We can use their own mistakes against them. They rely on technology, predictability. We rely on understanding, patience, and strategy." Kayla looked at him with a faint smile. "Perhaps humans are not always foolish. You may learn even in a short time." The two of them spent the next hours scouting the area, mapping the terrain, and identifying possible escape routes. Elias realized that Kayla's knowledge of her planet was unparalleled, honed by years of survival and observation. Every ridge, every crevice, every shadow held potential advantage. As evening fell, they returned to a temporary shelter Kayla had used before. Inside, she activated a small holographic map, displaying the positions of her people and the likely routes the humans would take. Elias studied the map carefully, noting the dangers, the obstacles, and the opportunities. "They will try to surround us," Kayla said. "They think we are weak because we are few, but we are not weak. We have knowledge, strategy, and will." Elias' resolve strengthened. "Then we fight smart," he said. "We use what we know, we protect those who cannot defend themselves, and we survive. That is what humanity does." "That is what I will do." Kayla studied him, and for the first time her eyes showed something like relief. "You see, strength is not just power, it is endurance, courage, and compassion. You have these qualities. Perhaps we can survive together." Night came, and with it, the distant hum of the intruders' machines. Elias and Kayla prepared for their approach, setting traps, arranging barriers, and planning escape routes. Every decision mattered. Every movement could determine life or death. As the humans drew nearer, their lights flickering across the cliffs, Elias felt a surge of determination. He was no longer just protecting Kayla. He was standing for hope, for understanding, for the possibility that humanity could rise above greed and cruelty. Kayla moved beside him, her glow brightening, signaling readiness and unity. "When they come," she said quietly, "do not hesitate. We fight to protect, not to destroy. Remember that." Elias nodded. "I will not forget." The humans arrived at the edge of the plateau, scanning, shouting, and preparing to advance. Elias and Kayla waited, hidden, their senses sharp, their minds focused. The night air was thick with tension, every sound amplified, every shadow a potential threat. When the first human stepped forward, Elias reacted instinctively, using the terrain to his advantage. Kayla's presence amplified their strategy, guiding him silently, subtly. Together, they forced the humans into confusion, disrupting their formations and slowing their advance. The confrontation was intense, but Elias relied on his training and Kayla's knowledge. Every move was calculated, every decision precise. Slowly, the humans were forced to retreat, their aggression met with ingenuity and resilience. Elias realized that this was the essence of humanity, the ability to adapt, to rise, and to fight not out of hatred, but out of courage and protection. By dawn, the intruders had retreated beyond sight. Elias and Kayla sat together, exhausted but alive. The night had tested them, revealed weaknesses, and forged trust. Elias looked at Kayla, her glowing form faint against the rising sun, and felt a deep respect and bond forming. "You see now," she said softly, "why I asked you not to look before. The truth is not easy. But it is necessary. You have endured, you have understood, and you have acted. That is strength." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "And you have taught me something about humanity as well, that true courage is not in domination or fear. It is in empathy, understanding, and action." Kayla's eyes softened. "Perhaps together humans and my people can learn to rise above the past. Perhaps we can survive." Elias smiled faintly, exhausted but determined. "Yes, we will survive. And we will rise stronger, wiser, and more compassionate." As the first light of day illuminated the rugged cliffs and the ruins below, Elias and Kayla prepared to move forward, knowing that greater challenges awaited. But for now, they had faced the immediate danger, protected life, and discovered that even in a harsh and cruel world, courage, trust, and unity could prevail. The morning light crept slowly across the alien cliffs, painting the jagged rocks in pale gold. Elias Rowan stirred, feeling the tension from the previous night still pressing in his chest. Kayla was already awake, sitting silently near the shelter's edge, her faint glow pulsing steadily. She looked out at the horizon with a quiet intensity, as though she could see threats long before they appeared. Elias rose and joined her, his gaze following hers. The landscape was peaceful now, almost deceptively calm, but both of them knew that danger was not far behind. The humans who had hunted them would return, and the creatures that prowled the cliffs remained unpredictable. Survival required vigilance, courage, and trust. "We must move," Elias said softly. "If we stay here, they will find us again." "We need to reach the hidden valley where your people are gathering." Kayla nodded. "Yes, the path is difficult, but it is safe if we follow it carefully, and we must move quickly. Every moment we delay, the threat grows." Together, they began the descent from the ridge, moving cautiously through the rocky terrain. Kayla led the way, her knowledge of the cliffs guiding them along paths that were almost invisible to an untrained eye. Elias followed closely, alert to every sound, every shadow, ready to act at a moment's notice. As they approached a narrow pass, Elias noticed movement in the distance, human figures advancing, scanning the terrain with weapons drawn. His pulse quickened, but he kept his voice calm. "They're back," he whispered. Kayla's glow intensified, a subtle signal that she was preparing. "Do not hesitate," she said. "We fight not for revenge, but to protect those who cannot defend themselves. Remember this, and your heart will remain strong." The humans reached the pass, and their voices rang sharply across the rocks. "We know you are here. Come out and surrender," one of them shouted. Elias and Kayla remained hidden, watching and waiting. They could see the confidence in the humans' movements, their assumption that their technology and numbers made them invincible. But Elias had learned differently. Strategy, awareness, and courage could outweigh sheer force. Kayla signaled to Elias, and they moved silently along a hidden trail that led to a vantage point above the intruders. From there, Elias could see the valley ahead, where Kayla's people were gathering, their forms faintly glowing in the morning light. The humans had not yet noticed them, and this gave Elias and Kayla a crucial advantage. "We can protect them," Elias said quietly. "We just need to act carefully." Kayla nodded. "Yes, we must guide them to safety using the terrain and our knowledge. The humans will not expect strategy, only confrontation. That is our advantage." Together, they began a coordinated descent, moving swiftly but silently. Kayla's glow pulsed with intensity, a subtle rhythm that seemed to resonate with the land itself. The humans noticed the movement finally, their shouts echoing across the cliffs. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon, and Kayla prepared her own subtle defenses, the energy from her body creating a faint barrier that shimmered in the air. As the humans advanced, Elias realized that direct confrontation would be costly. Instead, he focused on diversion, using the terrain to create obstacles, triggering small rockfalls that slowed their pursuers and forced them into less advantageous positions. Kayla guided her people through hidden paths, her knowledge of the land ensuring that no one was left behind. The humans regrouped, frustration clear in their movements. They did not anticipate this level of coordination, this combination of strategy and understanding. Elias and Kayla remained one step ahead, directing the survivors toward a hidden valley where the terrain would provide protection and cover. The journey was tense, each step critical. Elias could feel the strain in his muscles, the pounding of his heart, but he could not falter. Kayla's people, once scattered and fearful, moved with a growing sense of hope and confidence, inspired by her presence and the steady guidance of Elias. Finally, they reached the entrance to the valley. The cliffs formed a natural barrier, and the dense foliage and rocky terrain made it difficult for the humans to pursue. Elias and Kayla led the survivors inside, ensuring that everyone was accounted for. The sense of relief was palpable, though tempered by the knowledge that the humans might try again. Kayla turned to Elias, her eyes glowing softly. "We have succeeded for now," she said. "But the fight is not over. They will return stronger, more determined. We must prepare." Elias nodded. "Then we prepare. We train, we plan, and we protect. That is what we do. That is what humans do when faced with impossible odds. We rise not through fear, but through courage and unity." Over the next several days, Elias and Kayla worked tirelessly with the survivors, fortifying the valley, creating shelters, and establishing communication systems. Kayla shared her knowledge of the land, the creatures, and the remnants of technology that could be repurposed for defense. Elias taught strategy, coordination, and vigilance, ensuring that every member of the group understood the importance of cooperation and trust. As they worked, Elias observed Kayla closely. Her scars, once a symbol of pain and suffering, now seemed to carry a different meaning, a testament to resilience, endurance, and survival. He realized that her strength was not just physical, but deeply emotional, the kind of strength that inspired others to rise above fear and despair. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the valley in shades of orange and purple, Elias and Kayla stood together on a ridge overlooking their people. The survivors moved with confidence, tending to their shelters, caring for the wounded, and preparing for the future. Elias felt a deep sense of pride and hope, recognizing the bond that had formed not just between himself and Kayla, but among all who had survived. "They are learning," Kayla said softly. "They are beginning to see that strength is not just in weapons or numbers. It is in courage and understanding and protecting each other. This is what we must teach them." Elias smiled. "Yes, and they will remember it. Humanity will not forget this lesson either. We will rise stronger, wiser, and more compassionate because of it." Their moment of reflection was interrupted by a faint sound, a distant hum carried on the wind. Elias stiffened, recognizing the approach of humans once more. Kayla's glow brightened, her senses alert. "They are coming," she said. "This time it will be their last chance. We must act decisively." Elias nodded, determination hardening in his chest. "Then we act together, for them, for all of us. We will not falter." As the humans appeared on the ridge, their movements precise and aggressive, Elias and Kayla led the survivors in a coordinated defense. Using the terrain, natural barriers, and the combined knowledge of humans and Kayla's people, they disrupted the intruders' advance, forcing them into confusion and hesitation. Elias took careful aim when necessary, ensuring that every action minimized harm while maximizing protection. Kayla's glow intensified, creating subtle energy fields that guided their people, deflected attacks, and created openings for escape. The humans, expecting easy victory, were met with strategy, coordination, and resilience they had not anticipated. Slowly, the balance of power shifted. Hours passed, the confrontation intense but controlled. Elias felt the exhaustion in his body, the pounding of his heart, but he did not falter. Kayla remained beside him, a steady presence, her energy pulsing with calm determination. Together, they directed their people, anticipated the humans' movements, and turned potential defeat into survival. Finally, the intruders, frustrated and overwhelmed, began to retreat. Their confidence shattered, they withdrew beyond sight, leaving Elias, Kayla, and the survivors in the valley. A collective sigh of relief passed through the group, a shared recognition of endurance, strategy, and courage. Kayla turned to Elias, her dark eyes glowing softly. "You see now," she said quietly, "why I asked you not to look at first. The truth is difficult, painful, and heavy, but in seeing it you gain the strength to act, to protect, to rise." Elias nodded, feeling the weight and truth of her words. "Yes. And in acting, in standing with you and your people, I see what humanity can truly be. Not perfect, but capable of courage, compassion, and hope." Kayla's lips curved into a faint smile, a rare expression of relief and pride. "Perhaps, together, humans and my people can learn to rise above the past. Perhaps we can create a future where life is valued, where trust is possible, and where strength is measured not in destruction, but in protection." Elias placed a hand lightly on hers, feeling the warmth and pulse beneath her skin. "We will rise together, and we will remember so that future generations do not repeat the mistakes of the past." As the sun rose higher, casting light across the valley, Elias and Kayla stood among the survivors, looking at a world that had been scarred by war but was not beyond hope. Life, fragile yet resilient, moved forward, guided by courage, understanding, and unity. Elias knew that the journey ahead would still hold challenges, but for the first time he felt a profound certainty. Humanity could rise not just through strength, but through empathy, trust, and the willingness to face truth, no matter how painful. Kayla's glow pulsed steadily, a symbol of endurance and hope. Elias looked around at the valley, at the survivors, and at the bond that had formed between them. He understood that this was the essence of humanity, not the wars they fought, not the technology they wielded, but the courage to see, the compassion to act, and the wisdom to protect. The world outside remained dangerous, the threats real and persistent, but Elias, Rowan, and Kayla had forged a path through fear, pain, and uncertainty. Together they had survived, and together they would rise. The stars began to appear in the alien sky, glittering above the cliffs and ruins. In the valley below, survivors moved with hope and purpose. Elias felt the steady rhythm of life, fragile yet unbroken, and knew that the story was not over. It was only beginning, a story of courage, resilience, and humanity at its best. And in that moment, standing beside Kayla, Elias realized the truth she had shown him. Sometimes, seeing the truth, even when it breaks your heart, is the first step to building a future stronger than any past pain.